Okay, so thank you all for joining me. For those of you listening, we have Alan Rumbles, yeah, the legend that runs Canary Trail Races. We have Sarah Tizzard, yes, it is you, and Eros, who are the blind runner and his guide, for which this whole podcast is going to be about, and Pete from Studio 44, who has filmed them doing something amazing. So this is what we're all here to talk about. Sarah and Eros, shall we start with you first? And how did you meet? How did you start running together? And how did you end up running crazy distance races?
So we knew each other from our social running group, Run Head, and at the time I was due to run the big half, and my guide runner Kaz was injured. So we were looking for another guide. So we put the message out, and Sarah responded to the ad,
Okay.
and yeah, we did a short training run after work in the evening, a couple of K, and then the weekend we did a 10K just around Dulwich Park. And the weekend after we did the big half, the half marathon in London. Yeah, and we then Sarah got me to take over.
Uh, so then we probably didn't run together for a little while, and then Eros was supposed to do like a half Ironman distance triathlon in the New Forest, but was
Wow.
injured. Yeah, and so then we started running a bit more together after that, and then we've run ever since then. Yeah, we started out in the park run on the roads, and then I obviously have a preference for trail running, and so I kind of dragged Eros off of the tarmac and onto the grass to see what he made of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I did some trail
Oh yeah.
before, but
You
not
did.
not when Sarah sort of casually said, "Oh, there's a 50K, the Copthorne Challenge coming up. Do you fancy doing it?" And I was like, "Yeah, how bad can it be? It's 50K. It's far, but it's trail. Take it easy."
Yeah.
Yeah, turned up, and yeah, it wasn't just a walk in the park. That one, that was a bit off more than I can chew on that one.
And so that was the first time you met Alan, I presume. And what made you go back?
Uh, it was my first DNF ever, and it still haunts me, still upsets me. So I think that's the reason I wanted to go back. I knew what I was gonna be facing, so I did some proper training and just wanted to attempt it again.
Oh, that's brilliant. Alan, tell everyone about the Copthorne Races. Try and explain, as the race director, try and explain the difficulty that these two have, took on.
Right, yeah. Yeah, it's a 10.3 mile loop, the Copthorne route, and has just under 2,200 feet of ascent, which is quite tough. It's very, very runnable in places, but where it isn't runnable, it just isn't runnable at all. We have names for all of our little sections. Like Kamikaze Hill, which I named after Picnic Marathon several years ago. I ran that. We've got Satan's Staircase, the infamous Satan's Staircase, which exactly, yeah, which some chap came in after our very, very first race. He went, goes, that's just the stairway to the bloody devil. He comes in. Well, geez, let's just say it was a bit more sweary than that.
Yeah.
So we renamed that Satan's Staircase. But yeah, it's an amazing loop. I absolutely like. I try to get over there at least once a week.
Well, I mean, obviously,
Uh,
it takes in Box Hill, so you got 5 million steps.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it does. We start off at Mickleham Downs, and we go over to Headley Heath and around Headley Heath, and then it moves over to Box Hill, down to the bottom to the stepping stones, and back up the steps, the viewpoint, Donkey Field, and a nice long way back then to White Hill and Mickleham Downs again.
And what's that? What's that horrible descent near the end? The one that you
Oh,
hang on to
Good
the
Night,
tree to do.
Sweetheart. Good Night, Sweetheart.
Good night, sweetheart. That's the one.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
We have a mutual friend who named that Mark. He named that because we were out running it one day, and and at the bottom of it you run through the graveyard
mm, mm.
Mickleham, and he went, bloody hell, you come, it's good night sweetheart, if you come down here too quick, this is where you end up. So as we ran through, we all picked our plots. We'll go there, we'll go there. So yeah, so so they all get their names
Yeah.
for bits.
So, I mean, challenging for sighted runners, let alone unsighted.
Absolutely. I mean, on my talk about the race before it starts, every time I tell people when they go down Kamikaze Hill to take the right hand side. So it's an easy descent. It's the right hand side. There's more trees to bounce off to slow you down. That's all it is. And then on the left, on Goodnight Sweetheart, the hill we've just been talking about, I always have to take the left hand side down because there again, there's more trees to bounce off to slow your descent, and it's a bit more stable. But you
Mm.
have to watch out for the barbed wire fence that's there. So it's it all has their risks.
Which is half down because I think most people have tried to use it holding themselves up and pulled it down as they've gone down.
Well, yes, yes. It's we do try to repair it as we go, but give it up.
Yeah. Oh, and Pete, last but not least, how did you come to film Sarah and Eros? How did that come about?
Yeah, it was I was filming them for England Athletics a couple of years ago. They were doing a bit of a rebranding with some of their merchandise, and they wanted to have different run groups around the country, and one of them was running around Dulwich Park, which is when we had Sarah and Eros as part of that crew, and we were running around the park having a lovely time, and I kind of approached Sarah and Eros and I said, guys, I kind of feel like we need a bit more energy. Could you guys, can you guys sprint? And they were like, yeah, of course we can. And I was like, wow, I'd love to see it. So I got them to like sprint around this corner, appear from behind these trees, and they were like dodging and weaving around all these different people in the park. And I was just like amazed to see them running in perfect synchronization, dodging around all these people without even a second thought, their feet hitting the ground in exactly the same like pace and meter and step. And it just in that moment, I know it sounds a little bit arty, but it's something flicked on in my brain that I couldn't switch off. And for about a year at least, I was just mulling this idea over of needing to tell their story. It's just something so captivating and so amazing about seeing them run together. And it kind of just went from there. I contacted them both on Instagram last February, I think it was,
Yeah.
and sort of sold them this wild idea, and they were like, well, let's have a drink. So we met up in a pub in London for a drink. I gave them the pitch, and thankfully they said, yeah, all right, let's give it a go.
So it was more about sort of wanting to capture them and how they do it, and then it happened to be that they tried this, they went to do this ridiculous race as well.
Yeah, we were exploring, like there were possibly two or three different options we were looking at. And we landed on the Copthorne Challenge partly because they'd attempted it twice before, and it was this brutal event that
Mm,
really doesn't take any prisoners. I think it is so intense. And the idea of doing an ultra marathon blind, and it being trail and it being such a challenging circuit, and the impact that had on Eros, on his journey and his running
mm,
career, as you can call it, I suppose. It just felt like the perfect antagonist for a film that would be, yeah, all the richer for having it in it. So we then approached the wonderful Allan and the team and said, is there any chance, how willing would you be to let us do this, and everyone was thumbs up all the way. So that was kind of how it came about, and I'm so glad that we were able to do it around the Copthorne Challenge. Is a beautiful part of the world, and it's a special race. It really is.
Yeah, it is. It is. So how do you reach this sort of perfect synchronicity? I mean, that does it happen to everyone who sort of gets a guide? I mean, is there, do you train a lot together? Do you specifically try to sort of run in step, or, I mean, how do you do it?
So I think there are different stages and different levels of guiding. So round the park with no obstacles or closed road events is a little bit easier. So I think initially people aren't aware that you should be to be synchronized in that way. So for example, if I'd run with someone at park run that I hadn't run before, so when Sarah is run director at park run, and I run with one of her friends, Joe, the way I would do it is we'd first start walking, and I would say you have to be mirrored. So when my right leg is forward, her left leg would be forward. So you start walking. As you walk, you then jog, and then start running, and then you stay in sync. So that sort of works. But then things happen during the run. You might have to go slightly behind, so that the guide would say, "Come close" or "Come behind me." So your feet might change pace or timing, so they have to stay in sync then. Or if you're going around a bend, so one person has to do more steps than the other, so that gets a little bit trickier. Now then there's different levels. So then you start doing a bit of urban running, as I call it, which is during our social run, when we do go to Runhead, and it happens to be bin collection evening. So all the bins are out. So you've got the bins there, you've got steps, you've got narrow pavements, you've got the
Cars on the pavement.
cars on the pavements,
Bus stops,
the poles, all sorts of things. People coming across, buggies. So then you introduce other things. So you have other types of language, like I said earlier, stay close to me, come behind. There's a slope down, slope up. So then Sarah might see if the other running group are going down a step. So we don't do steps. So that's one thing. So for a step, we'd come to a halt and step down. But then Sarah would look ahead and see, oh, there's a drop curve somewhere there. So she'll instantly take us a slightly different route or run in the road for a bit. So you end up having that connection, that relationship, and that language. I'm putting words in Sarah's mouth, but what she has to do is filter out what is important or significant and what is not important or significant, especially on trail. Everything is a bump, everything is a rock, so many routes. It doesn't work for her to keep saying, oh, there's a route, there's a stone. So she needs to look at it and go, right, do I need to tell Eros about that? Is that significant enough for him to need to change his footing or anything? So I think communication is very important. So the more you run with someone, you learn their body language and what is important to them, both from the blind person's perspective and also the guide's perspective as well.
I mean, that is amazing, and it's fascinating to listen to, and I can understand that, that the time that it must take to build that relationship and that trust and that understanding. How do you get that across visually, Pete? I mean, is that there's such an irony to this, isn't there? That for this person who's not sighted, you're creating a very visual effect, if you like, to show off this relationship.
Absolutely, and it is one of the things that we've spoken about from the beginning. Like how do we make this film accessible? How do we make sure that as much as is possible, we make this a film that really is about the power of human connection. It's the power of their connection, but also the possibility of what somebody can achieve when they partner with somebody else, when they give something to somebody else of themselves and try to do something more than what they can just do on their own. And I think from a visual perspective, we wanted to show all the challenges that they were going through. And it's always very hard. I don't know if you ever watched like downhill skiing, when it's the winter. And it never seems as steep until you get to the mountain. You're like, holy cow, that is really steep.
Yeah.
And so we had this challenge of trying to, like, how do we show the audience what this is like from a perspective of never having been to the route of the Copthorne Challenge. So a sighted audience, how do we show the descents, some of the descents that there are, the challenging terrain that there is, the bouncing down Kamikaze Hill. And I don't know how it's possible to do it blind, Eros, like 3 times and not fall over. It's nothing more than miraculous, to be honest. It's amazing. But it's one thing showing it to a sighted audience. It's a very different thing trying to create something for a visually impaired or blind audience. And so one of the things that we've sought to do, and we've done it with one of our trailers, is to create what we've called a dark edit. So there's no visuals at all. It's all audio. It's part audio description. It's part the audio that we captured on the camera, in the cameras themselves. And we also, for those of you who saw me running around with all the equipment on as well. So I had my camera on a gimbal, which is like a steady cam, but it also had this huge circular microphone on it, which had 4 different heads on it, which created spherical audio. So one of the things that Eros spoke about really early on in the project was the importance for him of his audio experience of the world is his primary sense. And so how can we make sure that audio plays a really important role in this? And one of the things that we did was get this microphone, which captures sound from all over the place. And then we're able to bring that into the edit. And you can hear you hear the movement and the trees and the things around you in a completely different way than you would if we just had like a standard, in inverted commas, microphone that we would just stick on a camera for a normal production. So it's things like that, trying to make sure that the audio experience is as heightened as it can be, so that when we do begin to put together a dark edit of the documentary, which is something that I'd really like to do, is that we're trying to recognize that for not an insignificant number of people, their experience of the world is primarily through audio. And actually, when we enhance audio for a sighted audience, it's something that immerses you so much more anyway. So actually, it is something that can unite people and that can bring people together. So it was definitely a challenge. It had an expensive outcome because the microphone was not cheap. But it also pushes the boundaries creatively and makes you think, like, how can I be more intentional for creating this thing that I want to make, and how can I really honor the story of Sarah and Eros together as a team, and make sure that when Eros sits down to listen to this documentary, he feels like this is as much a part of him as it is a part of Sarah, even though they experience the world very differently. Actually, together they're this, like, the perfect spheres, half spheres of a whole circle. They come together and they bring each other's experience together to be this running team. And so for me, it really mattered that the documentary reflects that as much as it can.
That sounds amazing. And I think I don't know if you said you'd done a trailer in the dark edit. I mean, I think that would be such a valuable thing for sighted people to watch or listen to or to have access to. So it just gives them that complete perspective of what Eros has, actually.
Absolutely.
I'd
Well,
love
I mean,
to see
Eros had a
it.
great idea that I'll send it to you. You can stick it on this podcast.
Yes. Yes, of course. Yes. Amazing.
Tack it on at the end.
I
The
know.
little promo.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that would be great. Yeah. Oh, that's fantastic. Alan, did you have to do anything different or make any adjustments to the race while they were filming it, or what was
No,
it
not
like
at all.
having Pete around?
No, not at all. No, Pete. I introduced Pete to my Pete Hammond, who does all our media stuff, and those two just ran with it. And Pete Hammond told Pete where to put all the best places to position the cameramen and everything, like initially, and then so Pete had a look round, found out exactly where he wanted to film everybody. Yeah, and I basically just sat there and drank coffee and ate biscuits while they all went running.
Because we know that's all you ever do, Alan.
It is, yeah.
We know you just sit there back in the village hall saying, do this, do that, because you're never out there yourself.
Yeah, no, yeah, I really didn't have to do much at all. I mean, they were brilliant. The filming team was just absolutely fantastic, you know, and just watching them shoot off here, there, and everywhere. You know, I was getting updates during the race about Sarah and Eros. Obviously, I've, you know, got a lot riding them to finish as well. I like to see every runner finish. You know, everybody. I want to see everybody over across that line, and even more so this year or last year, should I say? Even more so getting them to the finish. So yeah, it was.
I remember. Sorry.
Go on, Eros.
I was going to say, I remember the first Copthorne attempt, because we knew there were the stepping stones. Allan said you can run to them and then run back. So we had to cover a longer distance but avoid the stepping stones. We did that the first year when I DNF'd. I did 2 out of 3 loops, and I thought, you know, I'm not going to make the cutoff time, so we called it a day. So for the next year, we trained really hard crossing the stepping stones, so we didn't have to do a different detour and do exactly the same course as everyone else. Came the second attempt for Copthorne, and then it rained so hard that they were all flooded, so no one could cross the stepping stones. So I was like, "Whoa, I did all that training for?" But anyway, so yeah, that was, you know, I was quite ill, and the excuses are coming out. So I was really ill. I attempted to start after 1.5 rounds. I couldn't get my heart rate down, couldn't run, so called that a day. But again, trained really hard for the stepping stones, and yeah, so this time it was full on proper route, stepping stones and all.
Oh, brilliant. Are we allowed to know what your result was? Or are we keeping that a secret for the film?
I don't know.
I don't mind. I mean,
I don't know.
I think the results out there on Instagram. So guys, what happened?
What happened?
Well, yeah, we did it.
Yay!
with an hour to spare and taking it easy as well. So
Oh, fantastic. Oh, that's fantastic. Oh, you must be so pleased. So are you going to retire now?
Retire? Not yet. Not yet. Not yet. It feels like that.
50 miles next time?
I think Alan's signing him up for the 200.
The
Special editions this year, yeah.
I did stupidly sort of say that, I could have definitely done another round, another loop, and then maybe, you know, just for the 5th one to maybe do a 50 miler, but we don't know. I think maybe quit when you're on a high, they say, right? So maybe.
I think so. What about a nice flat towpath?
So that's what we're thinking. We're trying to weigh out the flatness, because, you know, running a flat race has other issues. But it is a lot easier in terms of, you know, not for us getting delayed on areas that we can't run. But yeah, we don't know, basically. I'd like to do a much longer one. Eventually I'd like to do a 100 miler, but I don't think my mind can do that just yet, let alone the physical bit. I think it's my mind is my biggest enemy at the moment.
Okay, excellent. So you got nothing planned? Have you got nothing planned for this year?
A holiday. I think we've done quite a lot already this year. So we definitely need a holiday, but we'll see for September time.
Okay.
Might be something coming up in September.
Yeah, well, you before we started recording, you were telling me that you'd just done man versus horse this weekend. I mean, that's over rolling hills in Wales. I mean, that's hard terrain as well.
Yes, no, that is hard terrain. But it's less than a marathon. So this time it was 24 miles this time, but it was really tough. There were quite a few hills, quite a few bits we couldn't run. So, but, you know, having the horses and the other runners and everything, you know, how it's a different. It is a lot of fun, and that gets us going. But the difficulty we have is a bit like Allan was saying, that bits that aren't runnable are not runnable for us. So other runners will be able to easily, nimbly run, whereas we have to, walk it. For example, um, the part that doesn't seem as obvious that we have to walk it is when the path is like a slight gully, so the sides come slightly up, and obviously it's not a complete straight line. So we would run in a convoy, one person behind the other, and my feet would catch the sides occasionally, so that I can't run. So we lose time on those bits, and that was a difficulty with Copthorns, is we lose a lot of time in the bits that we can't run, and there aren't enough runnable bits for us to make up the time that we lose at those difficult parts.
Although we did.
Yes.
Got around.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Give yourself some credit.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. That's amazing. And Pete, is the film finished? Are you still editing? Where are you at now?
Oh dear. Okay, we're still filming.
Are you still filming?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So it's one of these things that has kind of, it just keeps growing legs, which is great, but at one stage it has to actually be done as well, which I keep telling myself, and my wife keeps telling me to. Um, but yeah, no, we're really excited to be filming with somebody next week. It's a bit of a, I'll keep it on the down low for now. Can't release it yet.
Okay.
But we're going to be filming with somebody next week who is going to do some running with Sarah and Eros and try and experience what it's like to run blind. And then we're going to go and take them to the Copthorne Challenge to experience that and to kind of, from an audience perspective, share their first experience of doing that and what it's like, so that we can try and understand just the kind of the level of challenge and technicality that's involved in even beginning to consider taking on such an event,
Okay.
and to do it blind. Absolutely huge. I mean, what we love on the, and why is it still being made? Why is it not something that you can watch right now and stream from your favorite platforms? I think partly because, like, I mean, I've got hours and hours and hours of footage, so much wonderful interview content, and it's something that matters so much that I really want to do it justice as much as I can. I also have a lot of people who are wanting to help and have offered so much. A massive shout out. I should also say thank you, Alan, for mentioning it. Pete Hammond, what a legend. Without his help, we would not have gotten the right shots for the documentary around the Copthorne Challenge. It was absolutely brilliant. So with so many people who I'm incredibly grateful to giving their free time. It's all, this whole project has been completely self-funded. Like, nobody has given us any funding for it. And as we've gone along, people have shown an interest and been like, oh, would you like this? Would you like that? How can I help? We've got music producers saying, would you like some original music? We've got like audio engineers saying, do you need it mixed? You've got all kinds of things happening. But one of the biggest challenges I suppose I have from it all really is that because it's not paid, I have to fit it in and around my other work. So I run a video production company, hence why I have all of this gear lying around, and thought, well, I may as well put it to some good use. And I think what's one of the main challenges actually, is finding the time to sit down and dedicate to it and just really bring it to life. So we are filming with Sarah and Eros next week on Tuesday, and then we have our final interviews a week on Saturday, where we're going to hear the last little nuggets from them, get some final pickups. And then the month of July is really my editing time, where I've had to say no to a lot of other stuff to make sure that this is prioritized, because our hope and our intention, my plan all along, has been to release it in time for the Paralympic Games. I think that would be a great time to release it. Something that would be, it would maximize the impact of the story and hopefully the influence as well, because I really do think that, you know, film storytelling, it's not just a medium that we kind of, I mean, I suppose we consume a lot of it all the time, but every now and again stories come along that change the way that we think about something. And I really do feel that this concept of being tethered to somebody else the power of human connection and what the possibility there could be when somebody reaches out to someone else and helps them. And in this context, I think it's just so powerful. If we could normalize this idea of running in pairs with a tether, from school children, I've got this, I can't help but tell it. I've got this, I'd love to have this sort of, it's called hashtag Get Tethered. And it would be a school's initiative where we'd encourage young people to make a tether together. So they braid a tether, and every week, for maybe half an hour as part of their normal national routine. Could you imagine it? Children running in schools tethered together to normalize this idea of running with a rope, so that maybe one day more people who are visually impaired and blind are given this opportunity to hold the other end of the rope with somebody else who knows it's normal to run with rope, and who knows it's not normal to help somebody along and to experience something together, do this as a pair. I just think that's the power of Sarah and Eros's story. And if we can really capture that and
Yeah.
have a documentary that is powerful enough to maybe make just a small degree change in the concept of how somebody could live their life for the sake of somebody else and with somebody else. I just think there's something. Sorry, I keep hitting my microphone. I'm so excited. I'm too animated over here. That's yeah, that would be sorry.
No, no, I think that's fantastic, and I think you can expand from running. I mean, you could hiking, taking someone up into the mountains. She says, because that's fresh in my mind, or
I think that's
other
what we
other
hope.
things.
Yeah, I think that's what we hope, is that it's not running is part of it, but just for to open up the outdoors really to everybody, because there's so much benefit for everyone from being out and being in nature, particularly on the trail.
Yeah. And I'm not a great runner, a great athlete. It's not, you hear a lot of time athletes with disabilities who are elites, and and they're amazing, but a lot of time people don't realize that there are, in the same way that there are elite non-disabled runners, and there are just people who enjoy running, and 40,000 people running a marathon, there's only one winner. There's another 30,000 which are just running maybe for the first time, or just normal runners, and that's where I enjoy running. I enjoy all sorts of activities, but I happen to be blind, and I couldn't do all this on my own. It's with a guide. And for example, for my running, it happens to be Sarah. Well, I mean, we do other things and other sports, but it's that connection. So it's, I appreciate people focusing, because I'm blind. I'm I do the events, and it's like, wow, he's blind, but often they don't realize that we're a unit, we're a team, and it's because of Sarah that I'm able to do all this stuff, and it's a time spent together that we know the language, we've trained together, and it's not all great times. We have some tough times, even during Man v Horse on Saturday. Sarah had lows when I was feeling good. When I was struggling, Sarah was feeling better, and you've got to balance all these things. But it's this partnership, and that's what we're trying to encourage, is just people that might not be great runners compared to the elites or anything, but they can find a guide, or people who are not guides at the moment, or support runners, to look for someone who would like a guide or support runner.
Is there a place out there that people can find each other? Is there a platform or a forum?
There are different there are some websites. So there's an organization called Achilles. So Achilles International, they're an international organization who do more than just running.
Yeah.
They do a number of sports, and they kind of will put guides and visually impaired or blind or other disabilities will put runners together. It's very big in the US, and there is a London chapter of Achilles, and there is also one in Bristol. And then I think if you start to look, there are other small groups. So I know of groups on Facebook. You know, there are park run groups. England Athletics also have a website for registered runners that they can register on. You can find a guide, so blind or visually impaired people can go there to look for somebody that might be in their area.
Yeah, but parkrun is a great place to start always, because the people who go to parkrun or you know, the volunteers there, you know, it's all about the community spirit. And there, you know, if you go to their Facebook page for that particular parkrun and you put a post on there, or go to the parkrun ask around, there'll definitely be someone who's willing to guide, even though they've never guided before. There'll always be someone there, I'm sure, that would love to do some guiding. And it starts from there, and it happens often by accident. You meet someone, you run for a bit, you meet someone else, so that person becomes, you run longer and longer, or different types of running, and it just grows. It just becomes a hobby and a social activity, and it's amazing.
I assume, I mean, obviously you have to like each other and get on with each other, but I mean that I assume there has to be maybe a recipe X that, you know, you can't just go out and guide anyone, that there has to be an understanding or something shared that allows you to understand each other perhaps better than, you know, I could, you know, guide Pete but not Allan, because I'd want to, you know, slap Allan or something. But you know,
Thank you.
you know what I mean.
I mean, I
You've got
think
to have the right personalities, haven't you?
Yes.
yeah,
Yes, and it's you're absolutely right, and it's tricky because you might run with someone and they're great people, you know, everyone's, you know, they're nice people, everyone's a nice
Yeah.
person, but you don't click, and it's not there for whatever reason. And yeah, you have to feel comfortable from both sides to maybe not say immediately, you know, I don't want to run with you, but sort of say, oh, I'm busy, or I can't do something, or you know, same as when someone wants to meet up for a coffee or something. You know, it's the same thing, and you're absolutely right. You know, it's like your friends. You can't be friends with everyone. Someone might be a nice person, but you might not be able to spend a lot of time with them, or be comfortable to say, look, when we're running, you say this. I don't find that very helpful. What I don't say, but could you say this instead of that? Or you know, you have to be able to
Yeah.
comfortably communicate.
Yes, and not be, and in a way, you've got to be quite vulnerable. You've got to be not worried about saying, do you know what, you know, this is really bothering me today, or I'm struggling today, on both sides.
Yes. Yep.
yeah,
And it's tough because often you might have a big event coming up, and you know, the chance of someone being injured or having a bad day is whatever X percentage. But then for both of you to be, you know, on good form on that day, it's, you know, it can get can be a bit nerve-wracking or nervous, like, oh, can't do this because I let the other person down.
Yeah. Yes, of course. Yes, there's the intricacies, you know, there's so much, isn't there? So much.
But it also helps because when you arrange to have a training run out, it's harder to back out. Where if you've got to go on your own, you say, oh, you find any excuse not to go. Whereas if you commit and you say, you know, from both sides, the guide or the you know, the blind person, oh, I've committed, I've got to go, I can't not say now. So it does help getting out of bed in the morning or going after work.
Yeah. No, yeah, that's it. You know, you got your running buddy.
Yes.
Oh, that's fantastic. So, well, I can't wait, actually. I can't wait to watch it and to listen to it and, you know, experience it and to see what Pete, you know, how he produces this.
Me too.
Well, yeah. So does that mean September? Is that because how much, when did the Olympics start? Is it August, isn't it?
So the Paralympics start August 24th.
Okay.
So
So
that's
it's quite quick afterwards. I thought there was a bit of a gap.
yeah, no, it's very shortly afterwards. It's a terrifying lead time right now, if I'm totally honest.
Okay.
Prayers
Well,
appreciated.
I better let you get on and do some meditation. Thank you all very much. It's been
Thank you very much.
yeah, learned a lot today. Thank you for talking to me. And yeah, send me anything. I'm very happy to share whatever. Let's get it out there and show everyone what Sarah and Eros can do together.
Let's go.
Can we maybe as well say thank you to Allan and to Canary Trail Events, because when we approached them about running, right from the very off, they were really welcoming. They didn't put anything in our way to taking part, and that isn't always the experience. And so I think that is something for maybe other events and run directors just to think about a little bit about how they can make their events more accessible, how they can let runners decide themselves whether they're up for and prepared for that challenge rather than someone make that decision on their behalf.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Too risky. They don't want to.
Yeah.
Well, Allan is a good egg. We know this.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And challenge.
And we would just, we would, I think.
Yeah.
We'd like to thank him for letting us try and fail, letting us try and succeed. Yeah.
Well, the problem was
you're more than welcome.
Yeah.
Well, the problem is he was so calm with us entering that for my first attempt, I thought, oh, for him to be so comfortable, it must be an easy one.
Yeah, no, Allan likes to make things hard. There's no doubt about it. But he likes to make it hard for everyone equally.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, no, they're great. All his races are fantastic. And you got some new lineups this year, next year, haven't you? I was looking at is it the winter?
Oh, the Winterfold 55, yeah.
That looks lovely.
That's an amazing route, that is, yeah. That's an amazing route. I want to try and get out there and set an FKT on it before the fast guys rock up in February and hammer it. But yeah, that's a very, very nice route. So we are, I'll get a little thing. We are planning to release another 2 races for next year. So they're both in the planning stage at the moment.
And the Copthorne races themselves. So the Copthorne, is it still 50k, 50 miles, 100 miles, 200 miles?
It is the Copthorne races themselves, 50k, 50 miles, 100k and 100 miles.
Okay.
And this year for a one-off is a 200 miler.
Okay. And is that still November?
Last weekend November, yeah.
Last weekend of November.
And do they have to complete it within the month of November? Because if I was to run that, I'd tell you what, I'd still be running a year later.
And non-stop as well, yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Have you done a loop, Pete?
Sorry, say again?
Pete, have you done a loop?
No, I haven't. I've done parts of loops.
We did challenge Pete and his crew to take on the 50k this year.
And we'll crew them.
And we said we would crew them.
Well, I think
yet they haven't bitten our hand off.
Well, I have been doing a little bit of longer running lately, so I've been putting some 10Ks in. That's my furthest so far, but I want to keep on pushing it, and who knows, we'll see.
Well, I've only ever done one loop. I've done it a few times, but one loop is enough for me. So don't let them shame you into it. It's a great loop. If you can, go and do it. It's just a stunning loop. It really is. You definitely get to see the best of the Surrey hills, and yeah, let no one sniff at hills down south again, because they've got a bite.
True.
Brilliant. Well, thank you all again very much for talking.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
And see you out there soon.
Cheers.
See you.
Take care.
Bye.
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 Don't press stop just yet. Hang on and listen for another 2 minutes to Pete's dark edit of Tethered. Close your eyes and imagine what it's like to be Eros.
Quote, more than 90% of vision impaired children and young people spend their free time on sedentary activity. British Blind Sport. A bird's eye view of Sarah and Eros running a race through a densely wooded area in autumn.
I think because I had that DNF, my mind becomes my own demon.
Cut to Sarah and Eros back in London navigating the Millennium Bridge. There are lots of people around them. Cut to Sarah sat at a table next to a window for an interview. Her blonde hair is pulled over her left shoulder. She's wearing a dark blue shirt and is fiddling with the white and blue rope tether as she speaks.
Running for me is freedom. It's about the ability to explore places and
Close-up of Sarah.
freedom to do that, but I get to do it with someone else and share that with someone else.
Cut to a race. They're walking up a steep section through a wooded area. Sarah opens a packet of food to share with Eros.
She's my best friend, she's my training buddy, my partner. We can do everything together. I'm just so lucky to be able to share that with Sarah.
They run through the wood and the sun shines through the trees as the camera pans behind them. During the race, they carefully cross stepping stones over a river.
The more we do together, the braver we are as a team. Like there's more we can take on, there's more we can do.
A bird's eye view of all their kit laid on the floor, prepared for a race. Piece by piece it disappears until the title, Tethered, appears on the screen.
We're a team running, but we've become a team in life.
A quick montage of Sarah and Eros running the various sections of the race ends with Eros dramatically falling. Cut to a blank screen. Title, Coming 2024 appears on screen. Title, Tethered, featuring Eros Adamides and Sarah Tizzard.
We're a team running, but we've become a team in life.
An adventure co-film, copyright Studio 44 Media Limited, appears on screen. End.